Continuing the Maimer, explaining the difference between Oisies Achkika, or using rather the Moshel of Oisies Achkika and Oisies Aksiva to explain the difference between Shem Yudke Vavke, which is Shem Ha'etzem Shem HaMiyuchad, and the other Shemus. So he explained first the difference between Achkika and Ksiva, and then began to explain the union of the Daled Oisies. First by giving a moshel of a Rav. Now we pointed out yesterday, and people should hear this, because the moshel of the Rav is the Rav wants to give over a concept fundamentally beyond a concept to the Makabel. So he has to go through the 4 stages or 5 stages. First the Tzimtzum Barishan, the result of which is the Yud, and then the Hey and the Vav and the Hey. So this is a moshel for the Eibishter creating Ishtalshalus. But the problem is, where the analogy it seems breaks down completely, is that the Talmud exists, and the Rav, and also the Talmud is Be'erech the Rav. It's just the idea is not Be'erech. The Talmud is Be'erech. The idea is not. And the Rav wants to give over an idea. Here we're talking about the very creation of otherness to begin with, the very creation of the Makabel. In fact, the Makabel doesn't even exist at these levels of Yud Kei Vav Kei. The Makabel only actually exists in Elam Hazeh at the end of the whole process. You're not giving over to the Makabel, you're creating a Makabel. Very simple question.
Is the Makabel us or is the Makabel...
The Makabel is us. The Makabel is the Yid Lamata.
There's the conception of the Yid exists above Hishtalshalus.
Okay, so we have to say, although I don't see it said anywhere in Chassidus, you have to say, otherwise it just doesn't appear to be understandable, that Atzmos was Boicher already, Mitzad Atzmos, a Yid Lamata. And it's not just that. He was Boicher Yid Lamata, there should be in a goof and have 10 Keiches and Nefesh and everything else. And that, what's even stranger is that precedes Ishtalshalus. Again, that sort of beer, it's a Chiddush Godel, has to be said explicitly, but otherwise how does this whole motion make any sense? He's already chosen the person, us, you and I, Lamata, in this year that we have. Now he wants to be Mashpir. So how do you go from Ein Tzav and Atzas Mashpir? Yud Kei Vav Kei, the whole. But the Shaila is, but we are, before that whole Ashpah, you're already saying that there is the person. What is the person? The person is putting the cart before the horse. The person already is at seer of Seichel and Midas as a result of Seder Shtalshalos. Understand my question?
Yeah.
Whatever the beard is, leave it open. I'm just pointing out the Nakuda, and whatever the answer is the answer. Can't offer answers really because it doesn't say, as far as I know. But would you have the motion?
So the whole, when the Rav recognizes there's a Talmud, that's the Yud, or before the Yud that already has to be, the Yud's already, there's a Talmud, there's already some more of it.
There's a Talmud is a mitzias, it's a reality with the it's not up to the Rav. There's a Talmud, his job is to teach.
Right.
It's mitzias, he's there, it's in the classroom.
But the Yud, that's already the beginning of that?
The Yud is the beginning of the process of conveying the idea. But it already is a Talmud. But I'm saying, the Maila, we are a product of Seder Shtalshalos. This very Yud Kei Vav Kei process that he's describing here is what creates gives us Seichel and Midas and Machshava Diber Maisa, the whole tzir of a person. It's a result of Seder Shtalshalos. We come at the end of this process, not before. And we are the result of this. It's not an idea in our head, that's us. The moshel is very tenuous.
Why? I don't understand.
We are Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's what our makeup on a very, very finite level. Completely unlike the moshel. Here's a Rav and a Talmud is giving him an idea. Here the Eibusher is just creating us through a process of Ishtalshus, at the end of which and everything else comes a person, a matter with a body and a head and a heart and esakeichas and nefesh. That's what Seder Shtalshalos is. not conveying an idea, to a already given person who is be'erech to the Rav.
Isn't the concept of the Nipshal always going to have a
This is not an image that's going to be flawed in magnitude. It's not in magnitude. The whole mechanic of the marshal is not the same. Yeah, we have to say in some level it works like this. Again, it's not explicable, and it hasn't been. It's not stated that mitzad atzmos and mohos already is the bechira. There should be a person made with seichel and midas. That comes before ishtalshalus.
So how does that save to solve the mushroom?
Because then he's saying, has all the marshal, then it's going to make sense. There already is in India the person. The Eibishter wants to communicate to him. How's he going to communicate? He has to create oil and tzimtzum, the whole process. But the person that he created to begin with is really all the product of that to begin with, the Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's what's going on. Yeah, so we have to say, again, so I can see, the only way to understand this is that, yes, that mitzad atzmos, there's this bechira and decision of a human being with these eser koichas and nefesh, and as a result of that comes a whole seder shtalshalus. The whole seder shtalshalus really is because I want a person with seichel and bidus and a body and 613 parts and machshava, dibur, ma'is, all of these things that comes before the whole process, and I want to communicate to him. How are we going to do that? So we're going to have to do that in a way that fits to his makeup. So it's going to have to be a whole ishtalshalus of Yud, Kei Vav Kei, Esesvidus, and the whole business. The whole business. It all comes after the bechira. That's really true. That's really true. But the chiddush that I'm saying here, which you have to see that it says, is the b'chlal. It says that the Eibishter was boiche. Obviously, the whole kavanah of Seder Shtalshalus is neshamas Yisrael, and Hashem's design with Direi B'tachtonim. Just taking that further, that means that in that original bechira in Atzmos, the whole geder and seer of the Tachton is already there, be'etzem, even though it's not created yet. In fact, it only comes out later. But Inyan is there before. Now, how do we communicate to him to make a Seder Shtalshalus? So the Pelish of Bedovid, if I'm saying is true, it could be totally wrong, is that Seder Shtalshalus, it's true in Inyan, I don't know how true it is in everything I'm saying here, that Seder Shtalshalus is the way it is, as a Svidus, a Chochma, and the Tzimtzum Da'id. Because of the Eibishter's desire to have this human being as you and I know ourselves, Hi Lamata, Pasha Kipshuta. So we're not a result of any process. That's Atzmos. Now backwards, since Atzmos chose, now we're going to make a process that fits that and will reflect it and can be communicated, a way of communicating with this person Lamata. Tzorech Iyun Godel, because it flies in the face of everything B'chlal that we learn about Seder Shtalshalus and its emergence. Anyway, Tzorech Iyun Godel, you're free to consult Maskilim and Svarim, try and find an answer. Doesn't change anything. We're going to learn the marshal now. Okay. So again, Bira Inyan. We started, where we up to?
Dugma?
It's about Dugma, page 371.
Yeah. We just started that, but I think we started it.
Yeah, we started that.
Yeah.
So first was the marshal of the Rav. So again, the stages of the marshal of the Rav were first stop thinking about the idea on your terms. That's the big tzimtzum. You tell me, friends, that tzimtzum in contrast to another tzimtzum that happens a little bit down the line. And what would that be? Where is that? Another tzimtzum are not the same. Not tzimtzum b'derech siluk, but tzimtzum b'derech filtering or just contracting. Like you have a moshel, and then a moshel for the moshel, a moshel for the moshel, a moshel for the moshel. That's not tzimtzum b'derech siluk. You're not removing. No. In the if you want here, in the process of the Rav teaching a Talmud, he gave us 5 stages. One produces a yud, one produces the first day, then the next vav, then the next day, the final day. We have to get this clear. That's the whole point of Yud Vav Kei. This is the process of communication of an idea that's otherwise beyond the ken of the Talmud. Notwithstanding that, the big chiddush here is that in essence, the idea as the master has conceived it is contained in the final product, no matter how far removed in terms of its presentation is. The simple story idea that the master ends up telling the student, contained in there is the whole essence, which is why after 40 years, the student will discover it, which is going to be that notwithstanding, say that the this is very limited structure system, through avoida in Seder Shtalshal's Gufa, we can unlock the Ein Sof, Atmos Ein Sof. That's the whole point of the Moshel, the whole point of Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's because the Oisias Achkik is, it goes on to say. But then there'll be a big irony, because Oisias Achkik says it's Teresh B'Ksav, and Oisias Aksiv is Teresh B'Alpeh, but you don't know the Rotzen Elgin and Oisias Achkik. The Rotzen Elgin is only known in Gemara, in Teresh B'Alpeh, and many other profound ironies that he'll address just looking further in the mind, getting the general flow where things are going. It's very, very profound and very nuanced, and like all Chassidus, it's paradox on top of paradox, or irony on top of irony. But let's get this clear. There's the simple process of a teacher teaching, the master teaching the disciple. The stages are, 2 days on this summary.
First is the Sila.
English, plain English.
I don't have to.
Okay.
Somebody speak plain English.
You can say it in plain English.
He removes himself.
The Rav has to stop thinking about the idea on his terms. That's plain English. You don't have to be professor for that. Next, what does that produce? That produces the Yud. What's that? And therefore what? What emerges now?
The point, the
The Nakuda of the Seichel. The Nakuda of the idea. Then, that's way beyond the Talmud. It gets nothing out of that. Next is,
Then he works through it.
what's the first hey?
Shadach.
Huh?
Shadach of the student. What do you call it?
Not yet.
No?
Yeah, well,
The
not yet. Well, yes. Sheta, English,
within
plain
the-
English.
so that's
What's
within
the
the-
what's the master doing in his head now?
Entertaining the mind of the student.
The mind of the student, and therefore breaking down or articulating the Nakuda in some kind of structure. It's got to give him structure. But because the huge step has already been achieved now, that the master is entertaining the student's matzah, the student's state, which is immeasurably below his own. But since it's the master thinking about the student still can't get the idea as the master is thinking about it. As the psychologist is thinking about his what do they call it? Patient. Yeah, gets it's a patient. In his mind, if the student would the patient would access that, he would understand what's being said about him, or he wouldn't even see himself there. That's because, on the one hand, the master is thinking about him, or the psychologist, but in the psychologist's terms and language and insight and understanding, that's far beyond the student. So we're way removed still from an actually articulated idea. So then comes the next stage. That was the first.
Class. He gives it over.
Not yet. No, that's going to be.
The Vav.
No, that's going to be the final hay.
Oh, I thought you went back now?
No, but the hay is the psychologist entertaining the mind of the patient,
Right.
and giving in the master of the mind of the master detail that needs to be conveyed. It's not on his terms, totally beyond the appreciation of the recipient. So then has to be the next stage, Vav. What's Vav?
The way the Rabbi is entertaining, like he's already in the classroom in his head with the students and giving over the idea.
No,
That's what
almost
we're
there. He analyzes the Vav. That's we started the shir now with. The Vav is a what? Is a Yud, and then comes Hamshocha. So another Tzimtzum now, but not like the first one. The first Tzimtzum was complete removal. The Rav completely removing himself from the way he understands things, stepping out of his own world. Now he's filtering. Now after the hay has already created some sort of structure that is conveyable, but still beyond the ken, the language, the insight, the ability, the grasp of the Mekabel. So now there's another tzimtzum, which produces this line that descends, filtering the idea, simplifying it. So in hay already there is the potential there of the articulated idea, but it's still got to be filtered, simplified. That's the vav.
Is that
Tzimtzum.
Can you say it's a klal yotzot of the Rav? That's like how the Rav is thinking exactly how
The
to
klal yotzot.
give over the idea when he gives.
Definitely part of it, yes. Yeah. How is he going to say it to this person? How's he going to get it? And then the hay, the final hay is malchus. It's the actual words that the master uses in conveying. It's the final product, the final expression. And malchus is also, it's two things, malchus. It's the words and there's two levels of malchus, an actual mind of the recipient that receives it. It's two levels to malchus. The words of the teacher and the mind, or the hand, the mind of the mekabel that gets it. Okay? So this is the way it is in the Rav. There's supposed to be a moshel for Ishtalshlas Bachlal, as he goes on to say now. So he started off with, to do it again. We just started the first few words. Top bottom of 370. Bottom 371. In the beginning from the Eitz Chaim. So there's the infinite light filling what later becomes the empty place. What that means is the mind of the master, as the master entertains ideas. So there's no room there for the recipient to understand. It's completely, relatively speaking, infinite and blow away any finite kelim. That Eibishter wants to communicate to us. So the first thing is Hashem has to remove His infinite presence. Remove. Again, Alter Rebbe explains it doesn't mean literally. It means in terms of He's ever present, but in terms of the experience of the recipient. So it's got to be a radical removal, and this now produces a revelation which is finite. So the first expression of that is one nekuda yud. Now, okay. So why is a yud? Why is the symbolic result a yud? This is all. We're just given a mashal supposed to help us understand this. Draw on the mashal to understand this.
Because he withdrew to the, so to speak, withdrew to leave just the.
In the mashal, what's
everything in the
mashal? What's the yud?
And the seichel.
The yud is the
result after the
The yud is the product of the silu. What is the yud in the mashal?
Contains everything that's going to come after. Basically,
It's the idea. It's the idea. The essential idea that the Rav is going to. Convey then through the whole process thereafter, the hay, the vav, and the final hay. So what does this mean over here? What's the yud l'mayla?
It's the nekuda of Seder Shtalshlus, of everything that's going to come after.
Right, it's the nekuda of Seder Shtalshlus. God's desire for Seder. Again, the thorny, really difficult problem is, as we addressed at the start of the beginning of the shir, that the Talmud, which is us, already has all of these properties before. You don't have to create them and conceive them. We have them. So,
in the mashal, can you say kind of the point of the mashal is the idea itself and how it comes into being, and the relevance of the Talmud is just in the Nimshal. The Talmud is Seder Hishtalshelus, but just Seder Hishtalshelus ability.
No.
The Talmud's ability to accept the ideas.
The Nimshal is us, not Seder Hishtalshelus.
No
In
muscle
the
matches
Nimshal,
initial
the
Nimshal.
Talmud is us, who receives these Giluyim, are we recipients of Seder Hishtalshelus. And through Avodah Adach Aboim Shnin, we can unlock in Seder Hishtalshelus Pnimius V'atzmas Ein Sof. That's the Nimshal.
No
Again.
muscle matches the Nimshal perfectly.
But this is more than just perfect. It's fundamentally cart before the horse. The whole thing is inverted. Okay, we're left without repeat the problem again, but it needs to be thought through and sources found.
I didn't understand your initial question. What was it? Like, I didn't get your question. You asked the question in the beginning about this whole thing.
Just asking it again now.
I also don't understand what the problem is.
Yeah.
Good. I'm happy you don't.
No, okay.
You're better off than me.
What?
And you're better off than me. There's no mitzvah to understand my problem. It's good. I'll go further. I'm serious. I don't have to convince you of it.
I didn't actually get it. I didn't understand what was the question.
Yeah, because from what I understand, what you're explaining, it has nothing to do with the muscle. You're talking about, it seems like you have a different issue altogether. Like,
I have an issue with the muscle. Yeah.
with the muscle?
Yeah.
There's always an issue with the muscle.
I understand, but the issue of the muscle is be'erech loy be'erech. It's not le'erech loy be'erech. This is inverted. It's inverted. Namely, in the Moshel, there is a Rav. There's two things. There's a Rav, and the Talmud exists. He's not creating the Talmud. He exists. And he exists with Seichel. He exists. Moreover, he's Be'erech. He's Be'erech. It's a relatively Be'en Arech. He's giving a concept. And Varai, after 40 years, he will grasp the idea as the master knows it. But in the Moshel, so what's happening in the Nimshal? The Rav wants to give over a Seichel to a Talmud that exists. Here we're talking about the emergence of Seder Shtalshalos. There's no Talmud. This Yud Kei Vav Kei is not giving over a Seichel to a Talmud. It's creating Seder Shtalshalos, at the end of which there'll be a Talmud. That's you and I. We're not giving over a Seichel. We're creating Shtalshalos. The Eibush expressing himself in a finite way of Seder Shtalshalos. The Yud, the Kei, and the Esesvidis, the whole process. At the end of that is the result of all of that is the Talmud that creates the Talmud.
But isn't the Talmud the original Machshava?
So we're saying that. But that's easy to say. But the problem with that is that it comes out, and I said it before, repeat it again, and maybe it's true, that in the original Machshava, to create a Talmud with the limitations that we have, comes out, precedes the whole process of Ishtalshalus. Why is Ishtalshalus that way? Why is Ishtalshalus with Dalad Oilimus and Esesvidis and the millions of things described in Kabbalah? Whatever it is, and the numbers of endless levels and nuance. Why does it work that way? Because there was a B'chiras Atzmos, not based on any process at all. Atzmos just chose to have a Nivra Lamata, that's you and I, with these properties, and then works backwards. As a result of that, we're going to create a Seder Shtalshalus that by which I can communicate to him. That's what comes out. And that is not the Moshel at all. Nothing like the Moshel. However, be it as it may, the reality is what it is, that Ishtalshalus works in this way. So let's begin. So again, we said this already. So everything was, last line, what's the Nekuda Achas the Yud? The Nekuda Achas of the Yud is, the whole, in this Yud is, in essence, the whole process, the whole chain of worlds and spheres that will emerge afterwards. However, here's the big point. Notwithstanding the siluk, the big siluk, nonetheless, there's a trace. There is a trace of the Ein Sof that precedes the Tzimtzum. It's all there in a potential way in the hidden by the nekuda, latent in the nekuda. Back to the marshal. The master is giving over his idea. At the end of the day, he's giving, of course, otherwise there's no point in this entire exercise. He's not giving a fairy tale, a little story to the Talmud. He's giving his idea. He's gone through this whole process to make it palatable. Which means that all along, starting with the first, the result of him not thinking about it, how am I going to express this in a way into the Talmud, and distilling it to a singular nekuda. In that nekuda is the whole depth and profundity of the ideas the master knows it. Therefore, just like the student after 40 years will be able to unravel and discover the depth of the idea, so too the avodah Torah mitzvahs, we're the student. Through toil, avodah Torah mitzvahs, mamshichim, we draw down and relate to. We're not only getting the limited original teaching that had been tailored to our very limited state, but through avodah gamerin sof shekayta batzimtzum. That's the point. Through Torah mitzvahs, we can access the infinite presence of Hashem that precedes the tzimtzum. That's the general outline, the general parallel between the Rav and the Rav Talmud and Hashem and us. But now he goes. But now going into more detail into the Yud Kei Vav case, it parallels the process of communication of the Rav and the Talmud. So the first stage is this nekuda. Nekuda zui klolis, but that's general. It's not differentiated, not articulated. Hashoras means literally to estimate, entertain the details. Shazel, that's what it says in Kabbalah. Sheshir ba'atzme b'koyach. Hashem estimated on a potential level within Himself. Kol masha asa leaves b'pearl, all that which will actually emerge in actuality. So what's that in the Moshel? What's the first hay? The first hay is, no, you said it before. What's the first hay?
The general idea.
The master entertaining the mind. He's
going to communicate
entertaining the mind of the Talmud, and the details of which he's going to convey. But if that were to go directly, the student gets nothing. But it's in the mind of the master already. He's entertaining the student's limitations and capacity, and articulating the idea in a way that will be communicatable down the line. So the hainu, as I said before, shedach makabel, entertaining the mind of the recipient, but who's entertaining it? Kivishu b'mashpia, as it is in the teacher. Again, if the patient will absolutely have zero clue, if he was privy to the way the doctor is thinking about it, it's the doctor's terms and language and insight totally beyond the ken of the recipient. But the doctor wants to talk. The doctor, at the end, that's his whole point here, is to communicate and enlighten his patient. So then comes the next stage. Then took l'mayla is the kav, shu inyan ois vav shebereisha yud. Like I said before, it's amshach lamata. It's filtering. It starts with the yud because it's a tzimtzum process here, not b'derech silik, b'derech filter. We have to go from the hay, thinking about the makabel on the master's terms, bringing down the language, the idea, filtering it. At the end of that process, naturally produces the hay, the words and the language that he's going to say to the recipient. That's the end result of this filtering process in the mind of the master. The final makabel, that actually is the mind of the recipient. All right, can we continue tomorrow? If you can devote a couple of minutes to thinking about this today, it'll help. Okay.
So maybe you can come up